Within 16 minutes, everybody was in position around the building. Top of the building, next door where they go onto the balcony, my guys at the bottom, the abseilers on the roof, and repellers as you call it. Everybody was, it took 16 minutes covertly. And then on the go, go, go,
your time today, sir.
Yes, thank you so much for coming on.
yeah, no problem. I'd do it if I liked you. It'd be fun.
We'll have a good time.
Aye.
I said we'll have a good time. We'll have a good time for sure.
Yeah, so welcome to the Big Text Ordnance Podcast. We're here at TTPOA Conference, Day 2. I'm Ike. We have Chris, Ian, and then our guest today is Rusty Firmin, former SAS. Pretty prolific, kind of the Iranian hostage situation back in the 80s is kind of, I guess, what brought you into the spotlight, so to speak. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about kind of your background, all kinds of stuff. But okay. I guess if you want to start with kind of, I guess, what made you want to join the armed forces and SAS and all that, and kind of what brought you there to that
okay.
day.
Okay. Well, first of all, I didn't want to join the army. I was forced in there at 15 years of age by what I thought was my father. Basically, they wanted to get rid of me. I had a bad enough life to start with. I was adopted at 16 months of age, so I must have pissed somebody off somewhere down the line. So, move forward. 15 years, I'm in the army. I've got long hair, really long hair. I was a Rolling Stones fan, and there I was. Walked in the office. Within 10 minutes, I had no hair left at all. That was my introduction. I hated it. But that was 15. After the first 3 months, when I was there, the first 3 months, which was September 65 as a boy soldier to Christmas 65, if I could have had £50, UK pounds in that time, I'd have been gone, because that's what it cost me to buy myself out. But I couldn't get £50, so I had to come back after the break. I then started playing a lot of sport again. I was always a football fan, always soccer, if you like. But I was too small. I was only 5'2", weighed about 7 stone. So I was competing with people, big guys who were pretty good at, at the sport as well. So I eventually spent the 2 years in boy service, where I grew quite a lot, fit, ate well, lots of exercise, and grew into, a decent sized guy. So with that, I stayed in the army. I was getting to like it a bit better because I was doing sport all over the place. And this brings me on to how I got into what I was doing. National service was still in to some degree in the UK, and they took me under their wing because I played football. And I played for the Corps, I played for the regiment, I played for the battery. I ended up playing for the British Army, representing the British Army, which is the highest standard in, semi-professional football in the UK. So I didn't do bad out of it, but I wanted to get into a tracksuit. That was me, a tracksuit soldier, as much as I could. So with that, done my 2 years, went into 49 Field Regiment, which is a northern-based unit in England. Artillery unit, spent 3-4 years there. All I did was play football and drink. That was it. And that was a culture, and still is to this day in the British Army. But I enjoyed myself. But then I started to get a bit of itchy feet. So I went from 49 Field Regiment. I'd done my tours in Ireland. I'd done this, I'd done that. So I volunteered for the Commandos. And I went eventually down to Plymouth in UK, and I signed for the selection process for 2-9 Commando Royal Artillery, progression from artillery to artillery, but it was a commando course. So basically you go there for a month and they call it a beat up. And that's where they beat you up. Okay.
Clever name for it.
Hence the word beat up. So it's a beat up down in Plymouth on the Dartmoor and all the rest of it, inhospitable places and stuff like that. I enjoyed it, funny enough. But I did a month there, and only when you pass that month, they do fail. Quite a few failed. You then, once you've passed it, you still haven't got a green beret to become a commando. What you do then is, over the weekend that you finish, get your kit together, and you go down to a place called Limston, which is a Royal Marine commando home. Once you get there, that's when you start being tested again. Because when the Marines get a hold of you, it's pretty much a lot rougher, because that's what they do. It was their training now, and only when you pass that training, which I did, you get a green beret. And the green beret means I'm now a commando. So then you go back to your unit, which was 29 Commando, and you become part of that. Stayed there for 3.5 years. Enjoyed it. It was either go there or go down to the parachute, Royal Artillery, RHA as they call it, 7th Para RHA. But when I looked at Aldershot and Plymouth, I decided to stay at Plymouth for the very reasons people who know Aldershot and Plymouth would say you picked the right choice there. So I stayed in the Commandos anyway. 1977, I decided then if I wasn't going to go to the SAS, leave it much longer, it's going to be very difficult. So 77 for me, I was on a training wing in 29 Commando, which means I was training young commandos. I was now beating them up, if you like, to become commandos, the same as I'd been through. So it was a natural progression for me. So I was fit, very fit, because I used to run every day, I used to play football over the hills with the commandos, if you like. I thought, well, I'm fit enough. So I thought, I'm going to have a go. So a couple of friends of mine decided to leave Plymouth and volunteer. Don't forget, the SAS is volunteer. They can't make you do it. So you volunteer. You get the paperwork signed. Off you go down to Hereford. And once you get to Hereford, that's when you start. And, you get there on parade. And I looked at these guys that were the instructors, and I thought, you know what, this is for me. Because none of us were the smartest guys in the world as far as dress sense goes. So I thought, I've got to do this. I have to do it. And that was the beginning of it in 1977 when I first went there. And you'd be glad to know that probably somebody you know was on my course. A fella called Bucky Burroughs. Okay, I don't know if you know him. A lot of people will. He did the first month of my SAS course. I got to know him. He then came back after 1 month and formed Delta Force with Charlie Beckwith. So he was on my summer course in 1977.
It's amazing.
So that's actually a good segue. Can you talk a little bit about like how the SAS kind of influenced, kind of like the special forces, our special forces?
How they compare?
Or like kind of like
How they
influence, how we.
Well, the Delta Force.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Delta Force, as I say, hadn't been formed then, but when, if I'm not mistaken, Bucky Burroughs came back after the first month, which would have been about August 1977. He then went with Charlie Beckwith to set up Delta Force, and then Delta Force, I think I'm right, by November 1977, Delta Force were formed. So that was in a few months, as I'm led to believe. I'm sure I'm right. And didn't hear much about it, Delta Force at the time. Obviously, they'd be getting their feet under the table. I do believe strongly that they modelled themselves on the SAS. Why would they go there to do something? And to this day, even speaking about it yesterday downstairs to some of the guys who know him, said that they modelled it as best they could on what they'd seen and what they'd met, well, in the UK with the SAS, if you like. So I didn't have any friends there at the time, and I was never much in contact at all, if ever, with Delta Force until that they had a mission, didn't they, where it didn't go too well before we did the Iranian Embassy Siege. So it was after that I'd visited Delta Force itself. Two of us came across when I was teaching the bodyguard in down in Hereford to the SAS and the royalty protection. So I was doing that, and they sent us over, first of all, to go and meet the Secret Service up at Washington. Used to play on the skid pans with the driving and stuff. Great fun. And then we drove down to is it Fayetteville, where the Delta were, or are. I'm not sure where they are these days. Met up down there. We didn't stay that long, a few days. A lot of them were away doing whatever they were doing. And then went back to the UK. But then we had visits, and then we had exercises. One would be in America, more like escape and evasion type, with the Hunter Force to try and get you. Then they'd come over to the UK, and it went on like that for a number of years. I don't know how long exactly, whether it still goes on or not. I have no idea. But that's what we did. And that's my recollections of Delta Force. Never got too close to them. And apart from doing the odd exercise, that was about it in my day. Don't forget, I left in 1992. So there was still pretty much a young unit then.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 15 years, let's say, But I ended up doing 15 years in the SAS. So.
And when was the SAS originally formed?
I'm not very good on history, but it was Second World War.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it was the Second World
before
War.
the Second World War. And, it was disbanded for a while after that. Which really people were, really in the UK were pissed off about. Then it was reformed. Can't tell you the dates exactly. I'm not really a historian.
Okay. Are you allowed to talk about like the selection process for SAS? And
well, I talk about it anyway. So. Well, I haven't signed the Official Secrets Act.
There you go.
That's why I've got 2 books out.
Yeah, so we'll talk about those here in a
talk
second.
about the books,
yeah,
yeah.
we got a lot to talk about. We'll
Well, the selection process. You get there. You got all these different people, and I'm downstairs tomorrow on my presentations. I've got 8 hours tomorrow in a classroom with 2 different, 4 in the morning, 4 in the afternoon, and I've got a couple of presentations. And on there, you'll see what it was like. And the thing is that when they come for selection, they come from all units. It can be infantry, it can be paras, it can be commandos, intelligence corps, engineers, pioneer corps. It doesn't matter. If they volunteer and are accepted, they turn up on day 1, right? And on day 1 is when it starts, obviously. You get to meet the instructors, you get, this is what, a proper briefing of what it's going to be. And, the shortcuts, they tell you on day 1. Take the shortcuts and get caught, you're out. And that is fact. So you go there, you've got this parade of, mine was quite a big selection. We had little ones, but 1977 was when the parachute brigade was getting disbanded, and there was an awful lot of para-regiment were getting a bit, what am I going to do, all that type of stuff. So they went on SAS selection, and therefore it's quite a big course, probably over 100, which is big. And then from day 1, you see almost daily from day 1, people are dropping out. Generally in my day, I think 8 to 10% would be pretty much a good pass rate. So you get 100, you end up with 10. But we had an exceptional, I think we had a lot of good guys on it, people who wanted to do it, whereas sometimes you get people who go, well, I did it, but it wasn't for me. So they get there. I've seen people get there and go the same day. I've seen that happen. It's not for me, I'm gone. But they get 2 weeks in the UK holiday, you see, so it's worth coming from Germany to go over there and get 2 weeks holiday. So you just get, I've seen all this happen. They get the kit, and then all of a sudden they turn around and take it back and hand it in. Nobody can stop them because it's voluntary. So that's the start of it. And then the first month is physical, starting easily, as easy can be. Map reading, you're getting taught to map read if you can't. Because if you can't map read, you're never going to get an SAS, because you're going to be tested somewhere down the line. So the first sort of week is giving individuals tasks to do. Right, you're in charge today. We're going from A to B over these hills and wherever. That's your RV over there. Might be 5 kilometres away. It could be 20 kilometres away. You are leading today, and the guys follow them. And it's very much like that, but they swap it daily, so everybody's getting a chance and a turn. If anybody's not up to the mark, they're picked up quite quickly. Some on the borderline, they get given a little bit more leeway. Some can, some can't, and some on the borderline. The ones that can't, bye. When you get back that night, you see a bed space where somebody was there, it's gone. It's not there anymore. So that would be the first month, and then you physically, from that day, you're actually worn down now, because you start getting onto the Brecon Beacons, which is in Wales. And it doesn't matter what the weather is. You know, in our day, we didn't have proper wet weather kit, and all. We had what we stood up in. And it can be really bad there, you know. But it's the same for everybody, right? It's the same for everybody. So you walk out, and you do your daily stuff. And my hate was jumping on that vehicle in Hereford and driving 30 miles to a training area to get beasted over the hills all day, get back in that vehicle and go back at night. Right? The hills, leave me on there. That trip backwards and forwards, I used to go. But we get back and go for a pint anyway. Most of the guys who had a beer when they got back passed. The ones who went to bed and failed. So it's a fact, you know, we've always talked about that. And so as you go through, you're gradually getting built up. Heavier weights on your back. You've got a weapon to carry. You've got your water bottles. You've got your ammunition. Well, your belt kit, as they call it, with water, which is quite heavy when you're carrying water and stuff. And day by day, people are falling out, and you're just looking around like, Christ, you know, what happened there? And you just put your head down and just go, tunnel vision, if you like. Yeah, I'm not bothered about that and that. I want to get there. And that's what I did. And as you get towards the end of that first month, it's like, you know, as I said, I did summer, and it was a really hot summer. There was hardly any water around. The reservoirs were empty. If there's no water in the reservoirs, you haven't got much chance of finding it up there. I used to take cans of cider. Not recommended. It's in my book, right? I used to take cans of cider. You know what? It's fluid. Put the fluid in, the fluid comes out. Gone. True. That's in my book. But that was me. So we do that, and as you're getting through to the last week, which they call test week, so the guys who are there in test week at the very end, the last week of that first month, they have a different exercise every day. And they have a set time which you don't know what it is. Okay? So the first one, you've got A to B via whatever. They will tell you what it is. They tell everybody the same. You're not allowed to follow each other. You're not allowed to stand talking to each other, so to speak. You've got to see people in front of you. You're going to have people behind you, obviously. But it's not a walk in the park, you know what I mean? You've got to do it properly. You've got your weapon, you've got all your stuff, all your weights. And then you do the first march. When you come back in, the instructors go off to one side, work out what the timing should be for that route. If you're not in that timing, you're gone. Okay? Same on day 2. Same on day 3 with a sketch map. We don't have a map. So you've got to figure it out. You don't have a map, you have, but you're told where to go and stuff. And it goes on, and every day, it never gets bigger, it gets smaller every day, smaller. At the end of the day, you go, I made that one. What about tomorrow? You get the next one. But the very last one, and you know, I won't go through each individual one because it will take forever in a day. But the last one on the last day, they take you out to an rendezvous point, RV point. They drop you there. Okay, you get a briefing off the instructors. They set you off at different intervals so they know who's gone off at what time. So you don't all race up this first mountain, you see, together. And depending on what the weather's like, you might see the top of the mountain, you might not. Because it used to be really funny weather there. And you've got the most weight you've carried, maybe Arguably between 60 and 80 pounds, weapon and belt kit, maybe 90 pounds, maybe more. And then you're off. You know you're going to do 42 miles over that on the last day. You know, about 42 miles. You don't know how long you've got. So when you go and leave that vehicle and you set off, everybody has got to try and get there as quickly as they can. Only at the end, when you see the vehicles, and we walked up to the vehicles, yeah, they moved the vehicles. So you're not at the end anyway after 42 miles, right? So you think, there it is, I'll get a cup of tea in a minute. Now, get up there and you see the vehicles pull off, and they'll pull off another mile up the road. So you've got to get another mile up the road. You just wonder if they're going to keep doing it. But, you know, it's all mind games, you know. It's mind over matter, you know. I don't mind, and I didn't matter either. But you know what I mean? That's the type of thing that happened. You get in, the instructors get together. You sit in the back of the vehicle waiting to go back to Hereford, another 35 miles or whatever. You get back there, and then they decide who's got through. And only then, when the last people are in, because people are being taken off on that last, especially the last 42 miles. It's a long way after that week, I can tell you, with all that kit and equipment. And once they get taken off, they don't come back on. So finally, there was a nucleus there that had passed the first week. And that was the first week of, you know, the physical side of the selection process.
And then, so once you were done with selection, and you moved to active duty with the did you call them regiment, right? Is that how you refer to the SAS? Was it regiment?
Yeah, the people who are in the know do. Yeah, or it's either the SAS or the regiment.
Okay.
But no, my book is called The Regiment. 15 years in the SAS. You know. So it's something like that. But once you've done that, and you have there's a little bit of leeway in between where you do different types of weapons training and stuff to see if you're okay, which I was, and so were a lot of other people. There's not many people actually really fail on that. But there are people. It's not for them, especially foreign weapons. You get to learn them and stuff. And then before you know it, you're on an aircraft to Belize, Central America. To do the jungle training. So you've been worn down totally on the first month. You're then out to the jungle. And anybody who's been in Belize, it's a secondary jungle, right? It's dirty.
Yeah.
It is dirty. It's not like Brunei. It's not like some of the Malaya. It's a dirty jungle. Secondary growth. It's got these little things, waiter wires, which are hooks the wrong way round. So if they get you and you're trying to walk, you get cut to ribbons. And the people who pull...
Yeah.
You got to take it easy. You don't want to race in the jungle. You never do. I mean, I heard stories that if they did 500 meters a day when Vietnam was on, that's a long way. So, you know what? You don't need to fight the jungle. If you do, you know, I got bitten by the flies that lay eggs in you, female sandflies. They pop inside you and then they poke their head out. On my final exercise in the jungle, Benny, the guy who was my medic, there's a scar on there. They cut it out, squeeze all the pus out, inject you up the backside, and you carry on. You know, so it's a dirty jungle, and you know it's full of everything you'd expect. I like the jungle. It rained 12 hours a day, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It'd still be raining, but when you're trying to get anywhere to sleep, you might as well pick a spot, whatever sleep you're going to get, because all you can hear all night is trees crashing down. And it's raining from late afternoon, 4 o'clock, all the way through to that time in the morning. Yeah, you get the lightning and thunder, and you can hear the trees, but you don't know whether, you can never see them. So you don't move at night in the jungle. You don't move. So you're laying there, well, there's another one, right? How close are these things? You can't see them. But, you know, you're a percentage of something. But I put that to the back of my mind, thinking, I've got to get, you know, how often do you sleep in the jungle? You know what? You're soaking wet all day long. If it's not rain, it's sweat, because it's so humid. You carry one set of dry kit uniform with you, in your bag, and you keep that as best you can dry. So when you get there and finally you put your basher up, as they call it, a kip sheet, all it is that, like a V, and then tie it down somewhere between two trees. You take off your wet stuff, okay, you hang it up. It never dries.
No.
Now, and your socks are the worst. You hang your socks up if you want, and you put your dry stuff off overnight. So if something happened, you could bug out. And in the morning, you get up, you do the reverse, put your wet stuff back on. That's really nice in the jungle, I can tell you. Right, you get up and you go, fuck. And then you put your socks on, and you put all the wet stuff on you. And it's cold by then. It gets warm pretty much after that. And then you sit on top of all your kit. You sit there with your weapon, waiting to move off. That happens day in and day out, every day. And it's not for everybody. There's a lot of people bin the jungle. They don't like it. Not because of the animals and the snakes and whatever else. It's because of that.
It's wet.
Imagine, it'd be bad enough doing that here in the hotel.
Yeah.
Get a piss wet throughout there, come inside here, put your kit on, right? Imagine putting that back on in the morning to go back out there again.
Yeah.
Try
Yeah.
it in the jungle where you got nothing. But you're always striving to keep that one set of dry kit dry within your burden that you carry on your back. So it's a testing, and again, you're being tested all the way through that. You have an instructor with you, a seasoned instructor from the SAS, normally very medical trained to a paramedic standard, which I've done that as well. Which means I've saved 3 lives in the jungle that I know of in the regiment. So it pays, and it's a skill that if everybody had it, then because you're in hospitable and stuff, different areas, you tend to have to look after yourself a lot. You haven't got like a medical corps here, and around the corner there you get taken to the big Red Cross on, You haven't got any of that. You're there to support yourself, and you have to do that. And that goes on throughout your jungle training, where you get taught to shoot in the jungle, jungle, what they call lanes, which are prepared for you. Somebody will be pulling up targets, reaction and stuff. It's a whole thing. It's a really good training phase. And as I say, it's very, very tough on top of the first month you've done, because you're still wearing your body down. You're still walking through the day. You're still wearing wet kit at night through the day, and it's just something that carries on. It's not for everybody.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine being. How long were you in the jungle for?
3 weeks.
Oh wow!
But when you get there, first of all, we get to airport camp, which is the camp in Belize. You go and collect your kit, right? And they give you all these ration boxes. Fine well you can't carry that rations in your bag. You can't get nothing. So what you do is, and they used to have things like chocolate, tea and biscuits, main meals, fruit. The boxes are about that big. Right, if you got in for 3 weeks, you get one of them a day. Where are they going to go? What you do is you take them to one side and you empty all the boxes out, and you take out what you want. Mm-hmm. Dry biscuits for me, and eat as much of the chocolate as you can before you ever go. Seriously, you can make a real pig of yourself with 21 ration packs. Because they're no good to anybody. What you've got left is you throw away. So you eat as much chocolate as you can. You're not going to put weight on in the jungle, trust me on that.
Yeah, you're just going to sweat to death.
You're never going to put weight on. But you go out into the jungle, and you're not really looking for things to eat in the jungle. But I was one of those lucky ones who didn't drink a lot of water. And to this day, I don't drink a lot of water. But people would drink water. You have to put tabs to make the water drinkable. But the food used to be packed up into black plastic bags. and it was either given to the kids up the road there by somebody, or it was all binned, wasted. But they were the military ration packs. So I tend to I like taking things. A lot of the time you can't cook in the jungle because it's called hard routine. Somebody can smell it. So basically, I took what I thought, biscuits in the main, cheese, things like that, which were small, but you could put in the side. I mean, when you've got your kit in there, you probably couldn't get 2 boxes, let alone 3 weeks worth, in a box. Tea and sugar. I never bothered with sugar and stuff. I just took tea bags. You know what Brits like. Yeah, morale is up there somewhere, you know.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. You're not told what to do. You know what? You look after yourself. The instructors are okay because they've been backwards and forwards 100 times. They know what's going on. But, you know, you're going to be left to look after yourself somewhere. So they're not there to say, oh, Rusty, you better take that with you. You know, they're not there. They don't give a shit what you take. They don't care what you leave behind. They don't care what you eat before you go. The fact is, you're an individual. And at some stage, people are going to be relying on you to help them. Not, oh, I've got no tea bags left. Can I have one? Yeah, fuck you. But that is a fact. You know, and that's how you get to, you know, self-sufficient. And if you run out of something, don't whinge and whine about it. It's your fault. You put your hands up, and that's what happens.
Let's transition to the close quarters training and the stuff that y'all did after the jungle training and how y'all were selected to be the ones to go into the embassy.
Into what, sorry?
Close quarters combat?
Yeah.
What was that training like for y'all back then?
Well, it's you know, it was designed years ago to do close quarter combat, CQB. And the fact is that it was designed for a reason. That's not particularly in the jungle.
Right.
It's to do with shooting techniques. Because when you do counter-terrorism, you know, generally speaking, it used to be 3 to 5, 7 meters would be classed as room combat types. So they mixed and matched it with different weapons, handgun. One of ours was the MP5, obviously. And, you know, they want to see how you shoot under pressure, be it on a range or be it in a killing house where you've got other people around you, how safe you are. It all goes into it. And what you're getting taught, first of all, everybody gets taught the same. Like I did with the stuntmen and stuff you teach them all the same. You know, single, double, multi, and so on. Goes round in that circle. And then you can use it in any scenario, but you can use it in jungle if you've got the weapons. You can use it in the killing house. You can use it counter-terrorism. You can use it Northern Ireland. Anything like that. You've got one set of rules that you know. You've got to adapt them at the time that you need to for whatever situation you find yourself in. So that's why they call it CQB, close quarter battle. But it's not predominantly to any one situation. You can do it wherever you have to do it. But you've got the basic grounding for it. And it's very handy for a bodyguard, for example, who's very close normally to clients. It's very good when you're sat in a car, maybe touring through Northern Ireland, and something unfortunate happens. So it's got its uses, and it's a very, very good to be taught. Now, if you can't adapt to that type of stuff, you're not going to be much use. So, and that's how they work it. Everybody gets taught the same. The initial training was through your selection process till you get to the squadron.
Okay.
As soon as I got to the squadron, I was deployed the month after Christmas to Northern Ireland for 4 or 5 months. So that's not training, that's operational.
Okay.
So that's how it works. You do that, you come back, a counter-terrorism team for 6 months. That type of thing, 4 squadrons in a unit, A, B, D, and G. You have 4 squadrons. One would relieve the other. In my day, it was, if you were on Northern Ireland, they would take over from you.
Okay.
They would take over for them because there was 4. Every 2 years you went back on the same loop again. That type of thing.
Let's talk about the weapons that y'all had. So,
Yeah.
like MP5s and stuff. What kind of gear were y'all like? Flashlights, for instance. Were y'all able to put lights on the guns?
No, depending on what the job is, the normal, as I call it, Green Army, the normal army have got, in my day, an SLR, self-loading rifle, bust, maybe a Sterling submachine gun, something like that. I've been there, I've used all them. But when you get to the SAS, depending on your jobs, whatever job you've got to do, you've got an armory where you can take the pick of whatever weapon you want for that job. And predominantly, if it's counter-terrorism, 9 times out of 10, mine would always be an MP5 and a backup weapon of a 9mm Browning. There was no Glocks around and stuff then, but they were very good. I didn't have any issues with it. I could shoot it. So that would be. And then, they had a lot of AR-15s and M203s. The over and under 203, and depending on the job. So it's just mix and match. Not everybody had to have. If I have that, you don't have to have the same. You might decide, I don't want that. I want an AR-15. There's not many people going to stop you doing that because it's. One, it gives a bit more flexibility within the, rather than everybody being regimental. So we were pretty lucky to be allowed to, more or less, pick and choose for whatever job we did, where you feel comfortable with. And shooting's always about being comfortable.
Yeah. When the embassy happened, when the Iranians took over the embassy there in London, y'all were up for counterterrorism, that rotation, I take it?
Yeah, B Squadron.
Okay.
B Squadron were on the counter-terrorist team. We'd only just taken over from D Squadron. Remember I said you take over? D Squadron had finished. Our job was to take over from them, which we did. And then within the first week and a half, 2 weeks, it was when the 30th of April 1980 is the day it started, which was a Wednesday. And it finished on April the 5th, so it was a 6-day siege, hence the film 6 days.
Right.
So it was a 6-day siege, if you want to call it a siege. And that's when it was, over a bank holiday, which is coming up now as the 44th anniversary at the end of this month. So the 30th, 44 years ago, was the day it started. The 5th of May was the day it ended, and I call it the Resolution, which that print is called,
Right.
the Resolution, because that was taken by the police snipers on the 5th of May 1980. And they gave me the pictures, and I did what I do best, make a few quid out of them. But yeah, so that's what happened. We got a message to a pager. The old pagers you used to get. We didn't have mobile phones, thank God. There was nothing. There was no Twitter.
These two don't remember pagers.
I had
These
a
two.
pager.
You have a pager?
I did.
From when you're in the
Well, with
apartment?
the fire, with the fire department.
It was slightly different. Ours were quite cumbersome. But they were quite handy because if you want to go for a beer, you tell the wife, right, I've got to go. Yeah, right, there's different numbers would go. But we were supposed to be going on an exercise to the north of England that very weekend. Bank holidays, we could generally have the Monday as part of the exercise without having prying eyes and stuff. So we just sat around Hereford. Some people were shooting, some people were doing this, some people were doing that. I was at home. They'd come into camp and do a bit of shooting. It was all like that. You're not told to sit there and wait. Like realism, if you happen to be 10 mile away, we had a system where the first team, red and blue team, one would do a week on and a week off, change round. So one would be on 30 minutes to react and one would be on 3 hours. So it was up to you where you were when you get that call, because it's quite important. And then when the 4 9s came up on the top of the pager, 9999, that was our operational code at that time to say it's an operation, not an exercise.
Yeah.
And it's like, that must be a mistake, because, simple as that, okay, they made a mistake, doesn't matter, let's get in. Everybody ended up in camp and didn't get told very much at all because nobody knew what was happening. That was on the first day. We sat there all the way through till 7:30 at night, and they said, oh, we can move now down to, what's it called, Regent's Park Barracks, which is down in London. But we had to go via, I can't remember what it's called now, we went via somewhere to get fed and watered because they couldn't cater down there for us, but that was going to be the main base station. So we needed to get the whole squadron in there before midnight, and we got them there without being compromised. That was the main thing. And Beaconsfield, which is the Army School of Languages, that was our first point of call. Get fed, and then get down to Regent's Park Barracks and just wait further orders, basically. Day one. You see it, you see it in the film a bit. You can't get everything in there, but
Right.
So that was day one. And day two, if you want me to go through that.
Yeah, go for
Yeah,
it.
go through it all.
Interesting story.
So basically, by midnight, we were all in Regent's Park Barracks. Trouble is, Regent's Park Barracks from the Iranian Embassy itself, 4.5 mile in London traffic. Now, you been to London, anybody? You don't want to go now, especially. But back then, you could actually probably drive. But nowadays, 4.5 miles a long way for an incident. Don't forget, we didn't know how many hostages they had. We didn't know how many gunmen there was. All we knew is we were in Regent's Park Barracks, really, and there'd been an incident. So once we got there, we had a quick briefing of what little they gave us, decided that red team, the other team, I was blue team, the other team, red team, they would go with the police on marked cars to get taken down to 1415 Princess Gate, which is the Royal College of General Practitioners. In the book, I call it the Docks House, for obviously reasons, right? That was going to be our holding area next door. Number 16, that was 1415. Number 16 was the Iranian Embassy itself. And number 17, the other side, is the Ethiopian Embassy. So we had the big one on the left where we needed to get the whole squadron there, but not compromised. So they went in first. They got in there, by 3 o'clock in the morning, they had a plan. If something had gone on there and they had to assault the building, early days. But they had a plan, and they called it a messy plan, okay? Because no real intelligence, no information, nothing. But they had a plan what to do should they be required, and it would have been messy. So with that, we had to wait down in Regent's Park another 24 hours. So that took us into the 3rd of May. So the 30th was the first day, that night. Overnight they went in there, which is the 1st of May. The 2nd of May is when we went down, 24 hours. Right, so we got to the 2nd of May. We waited 24 hours down in Regent's Park. That night the police picked us up, took us down to exactly the same place as our other team, got out with our bags. We had one bag apiece, and with the operational kit in there, in civilian clothes, round the back, into the building. Then we had a full squadron next door to the terrorists, and we still didn't know how many terrorists or how many hostages, but we knew next door. We were 14, 15, they were 16. The Ethiopian embassy was already being, with the spooks and stuff, doing what the spooks do. So it was surrounded, and we had the two teams next door, probably 32, probably about 50 something guys, just sleeping bags, not really any sleep, sleeping bags, all your operational kit, toothbrush and ammunition and weapons. And we decided then what we were going to do, basically. Nobody knew how long the siege was going to go, and nobody needed to be awake. But we get more info as we go along, get more intelligence, building a plan. The first plan was a skeleton plan, and that's why I said it was going to be messy. As days went on, you put meat on the skeleton, it gets bigger, you get a better plan. Therefore, you'd like to think that it's going to be a bit better than the first day one, for example. So you're trying to buy time, or I'm not trying to buy time. Max Vernon, the head negotiator, is trying to buy time. More time he can get us, the more we can plan, prepare, and rehearse, and all the rest of the stuff. And that's exactly what happened. So we decided we'd do 12-hour shifts. Makes sense, 2 teams, red and blue. They're on, we'll relieve you in 12 hours. You relieve us 12 hours after that. That worked because you could then go back to Regent's Park Barracks 1 team at a time, leaving a full team there to do your training and rehearsals. You couldn't do them next door because there was no facility to do anything. But you could get the coppers, the police, to whip you back. Go in there, you see quite clearly where they built up from the plan of the floor plan. They built up the Hessian combat rooms as the rooms that were on their map. Give the guys time to walk through them, talk through them, see where the handles are, doing all that type of stuff. So it's like a walk through, talk through, and you do it religiously, in and out, in and out. So you're getting to know in your head, when you go through that door, what's likely to be there. I'm not saying it is, don't take it for granted. But you've got an idea if you're on such and such a floor. And it was the same with us. They would come back, take over, we'd go down there. So there's very little sleep. And then as the days rolled on, it's the same all the way through. Stand to, stand down, especially when deadlines were approaching. By then we had lots of information. We had pictures of the guys. We knew what weapons were in there. We didn't know exactly who had what, but what grenades, all that type of stuff was all coming together. And the plan, we'd had a plan by then, a good plan. Updated if it needed to be. Max Vernon, the head negotiator, was doing a good job stringing out, buying time. What was day 1, it's now day 6, and the last day, 5th of May. And by the time that came, the Maggie Thatcher, who was the Prime Minister then, I truly love her. Maggie Thatcher, she, we knew that whatever happened, she would be there. So eventually that day, the 5th of May now, I can't go into everything that happened on the way up, but it's pretty much the same all the way through. Everybody, but the more stuff we got, the more important it was to get this right. So by then, we had everybody was, knew what they were going to do, where they were going, and we call it what ifs. What if this? What if that? Well, we had 3 plans. We didn't have 1 plan. We had 3. The stronghold assault, which is the one on the building, which is the one we ended up having to do. Our least favourite. Why would you want to run into somebody who's got guns and weapons? We had an open air option, which means maybe the terrorists taking the hostages to the coach. You'd have some of them in the open. Snipers would take them out. Assault team would brush up, rescue the hostages. The whole mission of the whole time we were there was to rescue the hostages, nothing else. However, it's a very nice mission because it doesn't tell you what you can or can't do. You're left rescue the hostages. The rest, I think you know what I'm trying to say. So that happened all the way up. And then that night of the 5th of May, there was 3 shots heard. Now, Lavasani was the press attaché to the Iranian Embassy. He's only a young guy, but he kept putting his chest out against the terrorists, goading them, if you like. And we knew that, but when finally there was 3 shots, very shortly afterwards, they threw the body outside of Lavasani. He'd been executed on the stairs. He shot 3 times. They threw him outside. The police with the stretcher went up, put him on the stretcher, took him away down the street. We were still in our positions, waiting, like a coiled spring, waiting to go. And then Maggie Thatcher, because don't forget, the whole operation was a police operation then, up until that point. Mm-hmm. We were there to support the police. Once that happened, control was handed over from the police to the SAS. And our colonel signed a bit of paper, Dello, who was the chief constable, signed a bit of paper to hand over control of the operation. It was now up to us to rescue the hostages, because one had already been killed, and proof of death on UK soil. That's all it was, and that was enough. And within 16 minutes, everybody was in position around the building, top of the building, next door where they go onto the balcony, my guys at the bottom, the abseilers on the roof, or repellers as you call it. It took 16 minutes covertly. And then on the go, it took 11 minutes for everybody simultaneously to enter the building, front, back, top, bottom, and go through their drills, which they'd done to rescue the hostages. It took 11 minutes to clear 56 rooms on 6, including the roof. It would be 6 levels, if you like, and the basement as well. So the whole thing was taken care of. Within that 11 minutes, 5 terrorists were killed inside the building, and 1 escaped, got out, and 19 hostages were released within that 11 minutes. And then taken out the back, all identified outside on the lawn, laid down, plastic cuffed, all that type of stuff. Females over there, males over there, such and such, terrorist over there. So it was all very like a plan that worked, but there was some shortfalls in it. There were some things that went on that you can have the best plan in the world, but don't tell me it's going to work. And it didn't for us. It's the quality and caliber of the guys that make it happen. And the 2 words I always use: adaptability and flexibility. If something's not there, you don't ask somebody, you go and do it and hope you're going to be supported later. That's the difference. You don't ask a sergeant, fuck that, You do what you think is right, and you hope you're going to be backed up afterwards. And that's what happened. And that's why it went. And when I was in San Diego, Marcus and the guys up there, they said, the kit and equipment, the weapons, the guys have changed. He said, but the one thing that hasn't changed, we still use that operation as a benchmark for today's training. I thought, well, after all these years, 40 years, they still use that benchmark. That is it. And that's straight from his voice. So with that, the resolution was done. The post-operations procedure was carried out. Forensics came, took our weapons away. I shot Faisal, the guy on the stairs. The other ones they were bagged up, all done properly that night, before we went anywhere, all given into forensics, off it went. We were without weapons for about 3 days, but actually we had 3 days on the piss, so it didn't make any difference to us. But we didn't have weapons until they'd all been documented, and they sent the weapons back to us, so we could continue as a counter-terrorist team, basically. And Maggie Thatcher came in to Regent's Park Barracks with her husband and William Whitelaw, Home Secretary. Big thanks to everybody. We packed up, back to Hereford. nice and slow, no blue lights flashing and stuff. Stopped on the way back, had a burger and stuff on the Greasy Spoon, as they call it. It used to be a caravan in them days, but it was open 24 hours a day. And that was that. And that was it over till we got our weapons back, really. And then debrief in the morning, well done, pat on the back, back to work. We didn't get any time off. We got the time off, actually. We had a couple of days off, I remember that, because we didn't have any weapons.
Yeah.
So they said, got a beer. So we all went out and had beer here, there, and everywhere, you know.
And then you said, you have any other highlights of your career after that? You said you retired in 92?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got out in 92?
Yeah.
So was there any other major events that you were part of during that time?
Yeah, there's some of them I don't bother, still under wraps. But have you heard about Operation Mikado? The Falklands, which is right, it's on now. The Falklands conflict in '82 started on the 2nd of April and finished on the 14th of June. So this is the 42nd. This is the 42nd anniversary this week. It's on right now of that war. But well, it was Operation Mikado, but it was soon to be nicknamed Operation Certain Death. Yeah, no, definitely. Guys were on the Falklands, the RGs were on the Falklands, and they'd been there for some time. But when we got down there, they decided that they wanted us to attack a squadron, to attack mainland Argentina, because of what happened to the HMS Sheffield and the guards and stuff. They got seriously damaged by Exocet missiles. Well, they knew, so we went to Ascension Islands first, and that's where we stayed for a while we did the training, because it's got a big airfield on there. And Punta Gorda down in Argentina, where the RGs were, that's a big airfield. But we didn't have any map or intelligence of who was there and who was guarding it or anything like that. But what they wanted to have and get those Exocet missiles that were remaining and destroy them. They wanted the super etendards and the aircraft on that airfield destroyed. And they wanted the pilots killed. That was our mission, to do all three of them. And if you survived, you then escape and evade out of Argentina, up over the hills into Chile. And the only saving grace there was that Chile president was Pinochet. Pinochet happened to be a friend of Maggie Thatcher's, who was still in power. That was the saving grace. And that's what we trained for. 2 C-130s were going to go with no air cover, maybe refuel twice in mid-air on the way there, because it's a long way to go from Ascension Islands. We did all the training on Ascension Islands. And then it was around about the time when we lost 19 guys in the helicopter incident. In one accident, 19 SAS guys to the bottom of the South Atlantic. So we'd got over there and parachuted into the South Atlantic and hoped to get picked up by HMS Andromeda. They picked us up, bobbing around in the South Atlantic, 16 feet waves in the snow, cold. Anyway, we got picked up, and then the guys that had got killed, some of them good friends of mine. It was decided by whoever that we wouldn't be doing that job because, first of all, the OP party got compromised. They had to get out and up to Chile, which they did. But that was in a helicopter. They just burnt the Sea King out, and then off they went. But we had to have followed that, so they would certainly have been waiting for us. I heard later on there was maybe 2,000 people, guys on that airfield waiting for us. So I think you can imagine the chances of actually landing and being able to get off that alive would be pretty minimal, because we didn't have any cover, we had nothing. It was just another, it was another plan. There was a plan that was never tested in the end, but nobody I know sees it working. Nobody. And then, if he had got there, we could have probably done the task. But there were so many people around there, we would have had half a squadron, because half had to turn back on the second C-130 anyway, before we even took off. So it was a bit of a disaster. But the saving grace for us was that we went down, and the guys coming out, the ones that hadn't perished, they came out and were going back to UK. We were taking over. Don't forget, we didn't have any weapons. All my weapons went to the bottom of the Atlantic when we jumped into the ocean, along with most of the squadron. So we met them on the way. Yeah, Rusty, you can take his 203 and his ammunition. So that's how it happened. So the whole thing, and then by the time we finally got round to and down to going onto the island, it was a surrender. So we never even got that part off the ground, because the surrender was on the 14th of June 1982. But there's so many twists in that. Unless you're there yourself, when you see the parachutes come off the kit going that way and you jump in that way, you just wonder if yours is going to come off today, but that's what it was like. So yeah, there's a lot more to it. You go into it in depth. A lot of it's in my book anyway. Okay. But to give you a taste for it, it was called, you wouldn't you? You'd nickname it something like that, because we're all grown up guys, right? But you know what? We're not dumb. But actually, if we'd gone ahead and done it, we might be called dumb. There's no question. But as I said, everybody's still alive, apart from the poor guys that in the helicopter incident went to the bottom of the ocean. And it's a sad story. Some really good guys there.
So you've mentioned a couple times. You've wrote 2 books. Correct?
Done 2 books, Go, 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 which is the definitive story of the Iranian Embassy Siege. When they read it, and I say they, the New Zealand Film Corporation were given that book to read, they decided that there was a film. So if you look at Go, Go, Go now, it's got Jamie Bell on the front of my book, and the reason for that is to tie into the film, because they took the book and decided that's where they're going to get the film from. Mm-hmm. So they tied it into that. And the book came out in 2010. Maggie Thatcher had it delivered in 2011. She enjoyed it by the diplomatic protection guys that we knew, that I used to train. They delivered it, and she had that. And then the regiment, 15 years in the SAS, that came out in 2017, and it's from a story from more or less from when I was born all the way through to 1992 when I come out. I'm thinking of working on a 3rd book, which is still another non-fiction book, and just having time is one thing, but I think I can do it. And the other thing is, if anybody wants them, just go to my website and I'll sign and send them from home anyway. Okay. Which is, can I use it? It's www.rusty-firmin.com. Excellent. There's a shop on there. Purchase them on there. Comes through to me. I sign and post all over the world.
Oh wow!
So it's as simple as that.
Definitely take you up on that.
I haven't got any with me, but the last guys in San Diego, they sent to the UK, and they got them delivered over there for their seminar. So that's the 2 books, both non-fiction, and the film 6 Days came from Go, Go, Go. The rest is history.
Well, sir, we appreciate your service and we appreciate your time today.
Yes,
no problem, mate.
For sure.
Thanks very much.
Yeah,
Enjoyed it.
Thank you. If you watched all the way to the end, we appreciate you watching. Please check out Rusty's website. Grab a book. Excellent story here. If you haven't watched the movie, watch the movie. Grab the book. You'll enjoy it. Excellent time. Thank you very much, sir, for your time.
Thanks, everybody. Cheers.
You got anything for the people? Nothing for the people? Okay.
Nah. Well, how am I going to follow that?
I know. You can't. No. You can't.